I guess the larger issue here too is, crime and punishment in Connecticut. That's something we talk about a lot. What crimes are worthy of punishment in this state, what the punishment should be in some cases. And I guess when I saw this bill, it just kind of took me aback, because before having this wonderful conversation with the esteemed chairman of the Judiciary Committee, who's filled me in about the requirement of the intentional nature to ultimately lead to this kind of penalty, I was looking at this like, are you kidding me? You're going to go ahead and increase these fines exorbitantly for someone just because their dog got loose? And it made me really ponder how we have failed to have the proper penalties for other types of crimes in this state. And as a result, I put together an amendment, which I'm still going to run because I still think it's a valuable amendment, and it's valuable for our purposes here to have a conversation about what is the appropriate penalty for certain things. A number of years ago, in my district, a gentleman, and I could mention his name and his family here, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to draw attention to the people involved. But a constituent of mine, a great gentleman that I met actually knocking on doors one year and became somebody that I talked with on a pretty regular basis. He was killed while he was mowing the front lawn of his house. He was killed by a distracted driver who ran off the road and ran him over effectively, and he died. And every year since, his widow has been contacting me asking to increase the penalties for distracted driving. So without fail, every year I put a bill in for increasing the penalties. And the good chairs of the Judiciary Committee have given me a hearing, I think once or twice on it, but it's never made it out of the committee. And I just, after this bill came before me today, I took a look and said, what's the situation? What's the penalty right now for distracted driving versus this proposed penalty for roaming dogs? And it turns out that this proposed penalty is significantly stiffer than the penalty for distracted driving. The penalty for distracted driving is currently $200 for the first offense, $375 for a second, and $600 for a third. And the amendment that I have would increase those penalties to match the penalties that are in this proposal before us. So through you, Madam President, I'd like to call this amendment, if I could. It is LCO 8435. If the clerk would be kind enough to call this amendment and I'd be given leave of the chamber to summarize, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Clerk.
LCO number 8435, Senate Amendment B.
Senator?
President, I just more or less summarized this amendment, but I'll do it again very quickly, which is this amendment would simply not change the underlying bill at all. It would simply add to the existing proposal. It would also increase the penalties for distracted driving to match the penalties for roaming dogs as the underlying bill. And that would be a penalty for the first offense in the amount of $350 versus the current $200. The second offense would be $500 in lieu of the current $375. And then the third offense would be the potential for a Class C misdemeanor in lieu of the $600 fine. I move adoption, and I'd ask for a roll call vote.
Will you remark further on the amendment? Senator Winfield.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I rise in objection to the amendment. While the amendment is speaking to penalties, the bill is about the actions of the dog owner and what happens in reaction to those particular actions. So I don't see the nexus of penalties as the way to get into this bill. Also, there is some conversation that's going on in other bills that may touch on this. And so when the Judiciary Committee even had a bill about distracted driving and the results of that distracted driving with some of the folks who are working on our roads. I know transportation has some of that. And so I'm sure the proponent of the amendment would disagree with this, but I don't see this as appropriate to be attached to this bill. So I rise in objection and would ask my colleagues to join me in voting no.
Total number voting 36, total voting yea 11, total voting nay 25, absent not voting 0.
The amendment fails. Is there